It's 2 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling. Your body is exhausted, but your mind will not switch off. You check the time, you sigh, and you tell yourself the same thing millions of people tell themselves every single night. Something is wrong with me. But what if it isn't? What if the wide-awake body lying in the dark at 2 a.m. isn't a malfunction at all? What if it's doing the oldest job a human being has ever had? For most of our species' history, sleep wasn't just rest. It was risk. The moment you closed your eyes, you became the easiest kill in the landscape. No claws, no fangs, no armor, no speed, just soft tissue lying still in the dark, while lions, hyenas, and leopards moved silently through the grass. A sleeping human was a gift to any predator patient enough to wait. So the question our ancestors faced every single night wasn't just, how do we rest? It was, how does an entire group rest when resting is the most dangerous thing you can do? The obvious answer is that someone has to stay awake. But who? And for how long? A single person can't watch through an entire night without collapsing from exhaustion within a week. There had to be a system, something built into the group itself that solved this problem automatically, without anyone assigning shifts or setting an alarm. And in 2017, a team of anthropologists led by David Sampson at the University of Toronto found exactly that system, hiding in plain sight inside a Hadza camp in Tanzania. Sampson's team gave sleep-tracking devices to over 30 Hadza adults and monitored them continuously for 20 days. What they were looking for was simple. When is everyone in this camp actually asleep at the same time? The answer stunned them. Out of 20 full days and nights, roughly 480 hours of nighttime observation, there were only 18 minutes total when every single adult in the camp was asleep simultaneously. 18 minutes out of 20 days. For the other 99.9% of every night, at least one adult was awake, alert, and watching. Nobody assigned this. Nobody built a rotation, posted a schedule, or told anyone when their shift began. It happened automatically, night after night, because of something built directly into human biology. Chronotype. You probably know this word in a smaller form. Some people are morning people. Some people are night owls. We usually treat this as a quirky personality trait, something you mention at a dinner party. But Sampson's data suggested it's something far older and far more functional. Chronotype isn't random. It's staggered by age, almost like clockwork. Teenagers and young adults are biologically wired to fall asleep late and wake up late. Older adults are wired the opposite way, drifting towards sleep early and waking well before dawn. Put a multi-generational group together around one fire, and you don't get a pile of people falling asleep and waking up at the same time. You get overlapping shifts, a chain of watchfulness that stretches across the entire night without a single person ever being asked to volunteer. This is called the sentinel hypothesis, and it reframes something we normally think of as a disorder as something closer to a job description. Old age, in particular, comes with a biological trait modern medicine treats as a problem: lighter, shorter, more fragmented sleep. As people age, they spend less time in deep, slow-wave sleep and wake more easily at the smallest sound. We call this insomnia now. We give it a diagnosis code. We hand out prescriptions for it, but for 300,000 years, this same trait may have kept entire camps alive. The elders weren't losing the ability to sleep. They were the guardians of the dark, biologically built to hear the twig snap that everyone younger had already slept through. But staying alert to predators wasn't the only reason ancient humans found themselves awake in the dead of night. There was something else pulling at them, something even stranger. And it wasn't coming from inside the camp. It was coming from the sky. In 2013, a biologist named Horacio de la Iglesia at the University of Washington traveled to a remote province in Argentina to study the Toba-Qom people, an indigenous community living with only partial access to electricity. Some households had it, others didn't. Della Iglesia wanted to know whether something most modern humans never think about, the phase of the moon, still shaped how people slept, the way it must have for our ancestors before artificial light existed. He tracked sleep patterns against the lunar calendar for both groups, electrified and non-electrified households alike. The results, published in the journal Current Biology, were remarkable. In the days leading up to a full moon, when the moon rises later and casts more light across the early night sky, people in both groups went to sleep later and slept for less time overall. The effect was strongest in the community without electric light, but it was still measurable in the community that had it. Their bodies were responding to moonlight as if it carried real information, real instructions, the way sunlight does. A few years later, researchers led by Leandro Casiraghi ran the same kind of study on university students in Seattle, most of whom had never spent a single night without a light bulb or a phone screen nearby. The lunar effect showed up there too, fainter but present. Sleep researchers now believe this rhythm is ancient, buried far deeper in us than the invention of the light switch, deeper even than the invention of fire. Before any of that, the moon was the only dimmer switch our ancestors had, and their bodies were built to read it. So picture what a single night actually looked like, tens of thousands of years ago. The fire burns low. Most of the camp is asleep, but not all of it. An elder lies awake near the edge of the group, alert to the smallest movement in the grass, doing a job her body assigned her without her ever choosing it. A few restless younger adults, wired to wake later than everyone else, lie quietly staring up at a moon 3 days from full, feeling strangely alert despite the darkness, though they couldn't have told you why. Somewhere in that overlap of ages and rhythms and lunar light, the entire camp was, without anyone realizing it, being watched every single night by someone. Always. But here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. That system never went away. Your biology is still running it. The elderly person in a nursing home who wakes at 3 a.m. and can't understand why isn't broken. Neither is the teenager who can't fall asleep before midnight, no matter how early they try. Neither are you, lying there at 2 a.m., wide awake for no reason you can name. Your chronotype, your sensitivity to moonlight leaking through the blinds, your body's refusal to simply switch off on command. These are not glitches. They are 300,000 years of a survival system your ancestors depended on, still fully operational, still running exactly as designed. The problem is that the world it was built for is gone. There is no camp anymore, no fire to sit near, no group of 30 sleeping bodies depending on you to notice danger before it arrives. The sentinel system is still switched on, but the thing it evolved to protect has vanished. So instead of lying awake, watching over people you love in the dark near a dying fire, you lie awake alone, in a quiet room, watching nothing, protecting no one, with all that ancient vigilance and nowhere left to send it. Modern sleep medicine calls this insomnia and treats it purely as a malfunction to be corrected, something to be medicated into silence. But when you strip away the language of disorder and look at what your body is actually doing, a different picture appears. Your nervous system spikes with alertness in the dead of night, the same way a Hadza elders did. Your internal clock still tracks a moon you may not have even looked at in weeks. None of this is new. None of this is broken. It is simply a system with no one left to watch over. So the next time you wake at 2 a.m. for no reason you can explain, don't reach immediately for the idea that something is wrong with you. Consider instead that you are doing something your ancestors did every single night for hundreds of thousands of years. You are standing watch. Your body doesn't know the camp is gone. It doesn't know the predators disappeared, that the fire isn't burning outside your window, that no one else's life depends on you staying alert until dawn. All it knows is the ancient instruction, passed down through every person who ever kept you and your bloodline alive long enough to have children of their own. Someone in this group needs to be awake right now. Tonight, that someone is you. And somewhere in the dark, whether you feel it or not, some very old part of you is still keeping watch.